Okay guys, so this is part 2 of the TSI valve timing. This is a Golf 7. So I want to cover through some things of the build, this tensioning and how we all do that, and how all this works. Okay, so basically we've already done the strip down and everything. We've set our timing tools in and all that. We'll cover the rest, we will cover shortly. But I just want to basically show the part of replacing the bolts and the cam placement and everything and all that. Right, so first things we do, we've got the cams on there. Now we've already replaced the bolts. Now, interesting to look here, the bolts do look different. However, this is the one that VDAP gave us. Part number, I don't have it with me right now, but this was the correct one according to the VIN number of the vehicle, so I know that these are definitely correct. And I went to the service workshop as well to confirm this, and they did indeed confirm that these are indeed the correct bolts. Okay, so first things first, we have now already broken loose the cams. The intake one, so I want to show you guys the difference here. You're going to look here. So this is the exhaust side. Notice the spring there. That's the most horizontal, and as well as your fasteners there on the outside. And then on the back side, it's got a placement there and a hole. So basically what happens from my understanding is that this hole basically lines up to that cavity there, and that basically pumps oil in, which basically activates your variable valve. And these things, when you fit them on, they can go in any way like that. They're free fitting, floating as they come. Okay, so then what we do that. Now I want to look at the bolt. Let me just get my measuring component here so I can just measure it. Just give me a second. Okay, so here I got my vernier here, so just to give you guys some dimensions, because the question is, do you really need to replace the bolts? So if we were to measure this necking over there, we get that to be about, it's measured in different places. So at the top, it's 9 millimeters at the center, still 9, see, like that, you guys can see. And then at the end here, that's 9.5, 9.6. So there's definitely some necking happening here. So now we're going to measure the replacement bolt. This is 9.3, 9.2, center 9.1. So in terms of necking, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of evidence for that. Where the difference does come in is in the length. The length of this one is 97 millimeters. Oh, sorry, you guys can't see there. 97 millimeters from back to front. And if you were to take the one which you have now removed from the engine, it's bigger. This is almost 99.5. So you have about a great deal extra in length. So there's definitely some wear on these bolts, being the design that they are. So may not recommend replacing them. We're going to be replacing them. Let me just slot them in there. This is a that was an M10 spline, if I'm not mistaken. M12. This is M12. Where did I put my M12 now? Okay, I seem to have misplaced my M12 somewhere, but that's M12. We're just going to use this Torx to just get that in place. So what we're going to do, we're just going to hand tighten these. In position there. Alright. Check that the gear can still move. Don't want any wobbling there. Now this is also how we're not replacing seals. The manual does not state we need to replace any seals. I still want to show you guys what the intake cam looks like. So let's just quickly take this one off. We've already got the replacement bolts in there, so that you guys know which one goes to which side. It's very important, do not mix them up. So the most evident part is you got the front center cap there, right? There are your positions for holding the cam when loosening it. You got the same design at the back, oil gallery over there, and there. So obviously and then these things are removable from the cam. Just make sure you get them in. That's probably for your oil pressure in all channels. So basically what happens is, as the engine revs up, it opens up oil pressure, which flows in here, which then advances your timing. So these bolts here basically fasten to that section there. See, there's those bolts on the back where they go. And then these obviously have no precise placement where they goes. I did make markings because I like to be precise, getting things as close to where they were. Unnecessary, but I just like to do it that way. I just prefer that. Okay, so then we're going to put these back in, hand tighten them down, and then we shall get the belt on. Now, notice how there's no oil dripping anywhere. It's very important that you don't have oil on your components because that's going to eat your timing belt. You don't want to have any leaks of that kind, right? So there we go, got the loose there, loose there. Next thing, we are going to torque up that bottom tensioner. It has to be 40 Newton meters. I've got the right tool, that's 16 for that. Let me just get my 16. Okay, so we've got 40 Newton meters set on that. Remember to replace the bolt as well as the fastener. That's the same thing actually. There we go, 40 newtons there. And now notice that the tensioner here is still loose. Still loose, that one. Why? Because it's going to move up, as you guys will see in a moment. Next thing, we're going to drop on the cam belt. Here. Make sure this is the new one. That's the part number there. Germany. Okay, so we've got the new belt in this one. There's no appearance of a direction on this belt, just the markings of the belt, normal. You guys can see that texture, get that texture there. Yeah, so that's the kind of quality you want to look at. So if you want to spend money, this is where you want to spend it. Don't cheap out on these things. Okay, so we would basically drop it on the crank at the bottom. Now that is how I'm not checking where my crank timing is, because that's actually relevant. I'm trying to do as well, not being able to see there. Let me just see if I can do it this way. Just trying to hook it at the bottom of the crank pulley, or crank gear rather. Pulley's not on yet. Okay, right, and then I found that once that's on there, we slip it on there, and then onto the gear, which mind you is movable, onto that one there, and then slip it on the gear at the bottom. So give it a little slip there. Let me just do that. Now, so this is, now we're getting to the part which is basically related to as to why you need to remove the cam gears. Right, that's on there. So notice when the belt's on, you can't really get it off the tensioner. It doesn't really want to do that. So what we're going to do now, get to the actual setting of the timing. This belt just isn't on straight, just give me a second. So make sure this thing is right. Give it a bit of slack there. There we go, it's on there. Get it on the belt here. Right, and then slip it onto that guy. See, now we've got the belt on properly. Notice how tight it is now. There we go, it was a bit loose. Right there, notched in place. Here we go, and our belt is on. Now that's going to annoy me, so I'm just going to correct that marking. Okay, so now we've got it on more or less in the position where it was. So now the next step is going to be to make sure that this thing bottoms out at the bottom end. So we're going to grab our tool to check the crank positioning, and then we shall move forward. Now granted, we can even use an 18, just a normal 18 spanner, which I don't happen to have with me right now. Where did I put the thing now? Okay, so I got my tool back in there, checking that the crank is on the top position. Crank is indeed in TDC position. Move back a bit, move forward just to check. There we go, there's our TDC position. I actually moved a bit too far now on my marks off, but these marks don't matter. Okay, right, so now we got all that lined up. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be tensioning this tool here. So as you are going to, let me see if I can just zoom in here quickly. And I don't think the camera angle is going to show it, but about there. There's your gap you want to be, and your guide is about there. So we are going to, sorry about that. I can just set this thing a bit tighter. Okay, that's about as good as I can get it, but you can't really see there. So basically, what's going to happen here is as you basically move this now, that one is going to move up and down. I'm just going to do that quickly because it looks a bit difficult with the camera. You guys aren't going to be able to see all that much of it. So I'm just going to do that quickly. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see there. Around about here is our tensioner, right? Now, it's exactly where it's supposed to be, but what you want to do is you want to go this a little bit past to make sure that you got all the tension slacked up. So you're going to go a little bit past that, about 10 more past. See where it's sitting now? Sitting there. And then we're going to take it back. This is similar to what you do with the diesels when you do spool timing. And right back to where it should be. There. And give it a little bit extra tension because that's slipped a little bit. But yeah, that's more or less where it should be. We're going to do revolution and then it'll take both seconds. Now we're going to tighten this one down. This is a 13. Get that nicely in place. Notice how it's moving when you tighten. You don't really want that. So we're going to slack this up a little bit, take it back, and get it to the correct position. Let me do that quickly. That's because we're not using the standard tool, which is a little bit more tricky, but it takes a bit of skill, but you can get. Okay, so with that now said, we're going to torque that one down to 25 Newton meters. And this is where the thing comes in of right to repair. You guys have probably been hearing in the trade, a lot of people starting to come up against companies like this that say, no, only they can fix it, only they can do things. Because if you do not have the manual, VW refuses to give you the torque specs. They've been doing that for a very long time. So in a situation like this, they say you actually require a very specific torque range, which Newton meters. Your torque range, if it's anything different than what the values that you're publishing, is actually incorrect. But anyways, that's besides the point. We're not going to dive into that because that's going to create a whole another conversation, which we're not going to dive into today. So that one was a 13. So I just need to get my socket to torque that down. Torque range set to 30 Newton meters. It's 30 right there. Cool. So that's sorted. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to torque up these ones. Now, these ones here require 50 Newton meters. Keep in mind that is a M12. So we're going to run an M12 on there. This is a T55. That's not the one that I need. Let me just look at my M12 and I'll be within a second. Okay, so we got our tool in there. Now keep in mind our cam tools are still in place. We don't want to torque against those. So we're going to be using our tool here to lock that position in place. This is on the exhaust cam side. We're going to hold this in place there while we torque down here. Making very sure not to apply any pressure to your cam timing tool. You can actually remove that. I think we should rather just hold that in place while this thing just torques up. There we go, 50 newtons on that one. And this is a check that we are doing. This is not a final torque, this is a check torque. Get that in there, that in there. Make sure it's in all the way. That one's not in the way, then we just set this properly. Just turn this around to the other side. So I know it's not the most action-packed video, but hope this helps at least. I haven't really found a lot of good content on this. I figured just doing this for the community. Okay, right, got that in place, that's in all the way. Get our tool back in there. Make sure this thing is held down properly. There we go, 50 newtons on there. Right, so we're going to remove that tool there. Okay, then we're going to remove our timing tools, because now we have set the timing properly. So now we're going to check our rotation. So what we're basically doing now is we're checking that if the crankshaft and the camshafts are in phase. Right. So I'm just going to dive underneath the car, take out my timing tool at the back, somewhere around there. And there she is. Just slack that up a bit. I think it is going to slack up because we have the tension set to that. Let me just remove my timing tools quickly. Okay, so that is the timing tool removed. Now inspect for any damage or wear which might have occurred. We don't see any there. Sorry guys, I don't know if I'm filming this right. So we know that we didn't put any excessive force on our timing tool. We don't have to worry about our timing degrees being off a little bit. Just want to see if I can just get this in there. You guys can see the rotation. See if I can get this more inward. Here we go. I think that's decent. I think everyone can see nicely. Now also, while you're doing this, make sure you don't have any oil dripping down there, because oil is gonna deteriorate the timing belt, and you don't want that. Make sure it's all nice there. Okay, cool. So we've now torqued this down to 40 newtons. We've torqued that down to 25. We torqued this to 50 newton meters, and we've torqued this to 50. Now what we're going to do, we're going to check our camshaft phase timing. Now we've removed the crankshaft tool at the back, and we've removed the pickup here, the cam tool there. Right. So now we are going to do 2 full revolutions of the engine, because 1 revolution is a half revolution of the cam. So we're going to do. Now keep in mind the spark plugs are removed, and the vehicle's in park. Probably should have taken it out of park before I did that. Let me just pause this quickly. Okay, thankfully it was a manual. So yeah, that's a little oopsie on my side. But we shall now check the camshaft phase timing. Just give me my tool over here. Okay, keep in mind we're doing 2 full revolutions. Sorry on that. That's why I got the marks on the cam. So now I'll know more or less when I'm going to get close to my 2 revolutions, right? Still got no contact. Check that these things are indeed turning. That's turning. Coming up to our spot. That seems perfectly aligned. Okay, so we're going to do it again, just to be safe. Notice how easily the motor turns when I do this. Gotta love that spark removal. Okay, right, so I'm going to bring it around about there. Right, now I'm going to reinsert my timing tools to confirm that my timing is indeed set correctly. I'm going to pause. Okay, right, so I got my tool inserted there at the back, and then check my cam phase timing. There, my crank is locked, and my marks are more or less spot on to where they need to be. And now I'm going to take my timing tool and I'm going to put it back on the other side, and I'm going to slip in easily. Yeah. And it does seem that the cam timing is a little bit off, so we're going to have to redo all of that to ensure that it slips in nicely. If I press down here. Yeah, cam phasing is not right. So even though we did all that, the cam phasing is still not correct. So now we're going to reinsert the cam timing tools and redo everything we just did. Alright, so now we're going to loosen those pulleys again. I'll just use a different breaker bar for this. That's why you don't tighten it to its final finish or final torque spec. Got to make sure it's right. There we go. While keeping the crankshaft tool in place, you're going to lever this one out. The tool there, and the tool there. So we know that our valves aren't interfering, right? So if this was just a normal engine, we'd be good, we'd be done. But keep in mind, variable valve. So we got to make sure that it's correct. A little bit of a tight one, but it should be fine. As long as you use the proper tools, you should not have any hassles. And make sure that the tool is in properly. You do not want this thing coming out. You will break camshaft if this thing comes out. So timing tool has been inserted. Oh, I forgot to put the bolt in there to hold that in place. Got to put the screw to hold the cam tool in place. Okay, that timing tool fastened again. We're going to loosen this guy up. There we go. And we're going to move to the exhaust cam. Real-time fitment here, guys. No smoke and mirrors. This is what actually happens in the shop. Right, so that's now free to move there. Double check that our crankshaft has been locked into place. And I think I might have pushed this thing a little bit too far when I did the crank. Just move it back a bit. And move it forward again. That's our positioning right there. Check that I got that tool in there. It's not in all the way. Could probably be why we're getting false readings. Turning it back a bit. Now keeping in mind, one is a TDC and 4 is a TDC. And cylinder 1 is on the fire position. And cylinder 4 is on the rocking position. So, got to make sure the tool's in all the way. There we go. Just there. You don't want it to touch. No, don't force it. Don't throw it. Just feel it on there. Right, so that's now in. And now look where our tension is sitting. Our tension is way off now. So we got to correct that. So let's do that quickly. Correcting our tension. That's a 13. Let's get my 13 sockets here. So this is where having the proper tools and things really come in handy. It's really makes the job a whole lot easier in order to do all these things. So we probably just over tensioned our components there on the last one. There we go, we got a little click there. Now we're going to check it with our sockets. Now I'm actually going to slacken this and refasten it. I'll get that in all the way. Okay, right, that seems more or less where it should be. So then we're going to hold that in place and just fasten it up again. And that was torqued 25 newtons. There we go, 25. Let me just double check that torque spec. I can't remember on my memory if it's correct. Okay, so I had my torque spec where it was 25 newtons. Okay, so now we've set that to 25, we didn't remove that. Crank set to its position. Retorque the pulleys on the top to 15 newton meters. Gotta have a manual when you do this, guys, otherwise you're gonna get confused. I've done hundreds of engines and I'm still running back and forth checking it every 20 minutes. Torque range set to 25. Getting our tool in place there. There we go, 50 newtons on there. Okay, I'm still in phase. Onto the front. There we go. Cool. Now we remove our timing tools again and check for rotation. And it appears my battery busy going. Okay guys, I'm going to have to call it here. I'll have to do a part 3 on this. Just need to get my phone on charge, get it fully up and running. Okay, so hang 10. I'm going to charge my phone in bits and I'll carry on. Catch you guys on part 3.